One thing you can definitely chat with anybody in here that's been in here for months is that they may not be fixed yet. They might have found a lot of progress, but they do have confidence that like no matter the flare up or what's going on, they understand it so much better to where it almost doesn't even hurt the same. It's like a different process now. So yeah, I rambled on a bit, but any questions off the bat that you'd like answered coming in here to start or no?
I don't think so. I'm
Okay,
good, thank you.
cool. Just want to make sure. And Adi, you been in here, bro? I think so, right? Or no, first time?
Yeah, 2 months ago.
Okay, cool,
Yeah.
man. Nice, nice, nice. How are you
Um, Good. So yeah, past 2 months I haven't been doing the BBB stuff. I went to I was busy with work and went on a couple of trips. Not too much back pain, maybe because I was like quite entertained and like doing a lot of stuff, so there wasn't too much. But yeah, I mean, still like the same typical areas of back pain where like if I bend down to pick something up, or if I'm traveling for a long time, then obviously you're gonna get it. So I understand that the whole idea of the flow and mobility is to be able to progress so that like if I'm on like a 2 hour plane ride, then I'm not gonna flare up something. But so yeah, yesterday was my first day of getting back in the flow. So I'm feeling a little sore. But I yeah, made the regressions that we talked about in the chat.
Mhm. Good, good. Yeah, man. It's not, we're never gonna be perfect and life won't be perfect. The
Hmm.
goal is that you have enough foundation that it doesn't have to be perfect. And think about, all the times growing up or before you even knew you had a low back, you were probably sitting and standing and traveling and bad posture or not, and everything wasn't so critical. And that's kind of what we want to get back to, not enforcing like, you got to train this stuff every day or you'll be in pain. It's more, obviously, the more you can invest into it now, well, the more that's going to compound faster. But over time, this stuff should become maintenance of lifestyle. And you enjoy training, you keep up with some of it, you train back extensions once a week pretty hard, you enjoy pushing it, you never have to worry about your back, and you get a good gym session from it, plus the mobility and everything else you're going to maintain. It's only dead set blueprint roadmap 3 times a week. You got to work for it in the beginning because we're in such a ditch. We're starting at such a sensitive place. So it's all good, man. It's all good. Traveling, all that. It's real life, but I'm glad you're here, ready to work. Juan, what's up, man? I see you got your hand raised. Davis, good to see you, bro. What you got, Juan? In the side bend progression, I don't really feel any work in any muscle or anything. I would like you can give me any advice because I really want to know how to do the exercise to feel something. Uh, Juan, this is you, right? The same Juan that I know, or is this a new Juan? Just want to make sure. Sebastian Campos. Yeah, okay. So remind me where you're at with back extensions while I pull up a picture I want to show. Yeah, just making sure, Juan. I'm gonna show a picture just to remind us about the actually Grace just sent me newsletter that's about to go out. Let's take a sneak peek at that. We're gonna go over the side bending progression. So when I say side bending, we're talking about this stuff. You may have seen me do it on videos, or it could be called the QL extension. So the spine, obviously, we can round our back, but sometimes you'll feel back pain more on one side. A lot of times, and the natural urge you may start to feel is you want to pull a chair or want to reach. You just want to crank sideways, and that's what the symptoms of tightness are telling you. Now, it's good to know. It's good direction. Okay, I may have a difference left to right. My back does feel like it aches on one side more than the other. But what you can't feel, the relief may give you the direction, but relief chasing won't tell you what's a good step one. Because when you're chasing relief, what do you want? You just want the opposite of that. So if you're tight, you just want to stretch. If you're feeling tight on your right side laterally, you just want to go against it sideways. Now, that may be the fastest way to feel that specific spot, but that doesn't mean it's the safest for the other tissue, for your disc, for the nerves around it, for all the tissue around, right? So that's why side bending is the last step. Now I'm going to show an article Grace, someone on our team, wrote. She works for us and she helps with me. She takes these topics I write about and then she writes it in newsletter form. You guys have probably seen the newsletters. And I just want to go over it because it kind of breaks down the order of that. So let's see. Progression of lateral flexion. The QL in training lateral spine is arguably the last step of a low back rebuild. I won't make this like class, right? I'm not going to force you to lecture and read all of it, but understanding the deepest muscle, arguably one of them that we have in the core, is this side bending QL, Quadratus Lumborum. You can see it attached here. Can I zoom in? Yep, I can. Here. Now read what it does, right? So a lot of people can diagnose themselves. Lateral hip shift. I had this. If you take a picture of yourself from behind, you may see one hip is 2 inches higher than the other. That's a great diagnosis to be able to make of yourself. A good observation. It's not even diagnosis. That would be a lateral hip shift or pelvic tilt sideways. Well, pelvic tilt's that way. Lateral hip shift. Now, that doesn't mean that your answer right away to fix the QL that may be likely responsible involved with that, the answer isn't just to go against it. Because the QL doesn't only work side to side. So one, the tightness you feel laterally could be more than just this muscle. It very well could be your hip flexors as well, the other low back muscles on the outside, the spinal erectors and the things in between that size, even the deep abs and the psoas and the super tight ab wall that you may have. So everything around the core and hips, left to right, affect where your hips are, whether you feel tight sideways and need to reach. Now, the thing I really want to get to is read this. Quadratus lumborum. These are the functions it does. When you see this muscle and you hear people talk about it, you only hear, like in this program, sideways. That's how we work QL. That may make you think that's all it does. It doesn't. It also extends and stabilizes. Stabilize, when you hear the word stabilize, think rotation and think anti-rotation and holding still. Also forwards and back, but stability is strength in every direction, prevent motion. So this QL is fighting in every direction to keep your spine in place in this tug of war left to right. Imagine beams, suspension beams on a bridge. That's like the QL. Super tight, gets super strong, can be very hard to open up. But it also extends and flexes. So why am I spending so much time on this topic? Everyone can see what I'm looking at, right? Can someone just throw a thumbs up or something? You can see the picture. I just want to make sure I'm not this deep. All right. Because this happened before. I'm 20 minutes in and they're like, we can't see what you're talking about. So this muscle is basically the last step of a rebuild, because oftentimes it's the last step of dysfunction and imbalance. So if you get a low back tweak for the first time in your life, you're 17 and you are back squatting heavy and ugly form and you're weak in your back, all that. You tweak something in your back. Odds are it's like, it's one of these outer muscles. The first time I ever felt my back was a low back tweak. And it was this wall of muscle that you may think of as your back muscles. Superficial, big, superficial meaning on the outside. So when something strains here, that's a pretty easy fix. It's like a bicep on top of the skeleton. It's just on top of your back. Cool. As you start to get breakdown and more straining and more imbalance and more weakness and more avoidance, you're not using your back, well, you might start hitting muscles that are a little bit deeper. Stuff like this. Different spinalis muscles that are in a little bit deeper. Things like multifidus that I've showed all the time. It's not the only muscle there. It's just a very good example. All these muscles can start to get strained. All these. So the order of this function, usually, unless you get in a car wreck and get just destroyed in one day, imagine dysfunction and imbalance. When I say dysfunction, I mean it doesn't fire right. It doesn't trust it. The nerves get weird. The circulation gets a little bit limited. You don't get a pump there. The only time you feel it is when it's tight. So The big muscles on the outside is like an onion. The outer layer starts to get a little messed up. Then it goes deeper. Now we're at the multifidus, the rotatorus, all these rotatory, longus, interspinalis, little muscles by the spine. Then after that, you can get to the literal ligaments and then discs of the spine. It starts pulling on ligaments. It can start shifting the spine. You get spondylosis. We get all these other things. And then you get to discs, nerves, etc. So imagine that from inside out. By the time you have spine problems, you already had for years, most likely, if it was steady, big muscle issues, smaller muscle issues, further. So now when we want to undo that, if we have a herniated disc, what's the only way you could potentially fix a herniated disc is you just get surgery if you want to go immediately to the disc. Our approach is the opposite. Start from the furthest layer, back extension iso holds, big muscles, glutes, hamstrings, big back extension, big spinal erectors, the big back muscles. Now, when you go single leg, you start to use the rotation muscles because it wants to tip you. So even single leg hold, you start to use a little bit of the deeper muscles. As soon as we get flexion and we're pulling and opening on stuff, now we actually are getting closer to the spine. Now, I went from big muscle, small muscle, spine. Where does the QL play? This would be a good thing to show. Is a picture. I want a better one than this. There's a picture I really love that looks a lot better than this, but this could work, okay? Right here. Quadratus, this is the QL right here. Iliocostalis and longissimus. It's okay if you don't understand these or know what it means. It doesn't really matter. They're not even the big, as much of the big spinal muscles. Actually, is that spinal erector? Yes, it is. I think it is. This is a different way to look at it. Spinal erectors. Yeah, no, that is spinal erectors. I'm sorry. So basically what we're looking at is the top-down view of the spine and the muscles. I went through this whole breakdown to basically talk about the layers of the back, fixing the back. For the point of side bending, Juan, I know it took a long answer, but I really, before we get anxiety about feeling the QLs or muscles, side bending is the last step because training this stuff is so deep in the back. It is attached to the spine. And it's even deeper than the spinal erectors and the low back muscles. It's like almost, here's the psoas, which is almost a core muscle, like an ab muscle. It's more to the front. And these are the back muscles. So the QL, the thing that we're trying to hit sideways, is in between the abs and the spine and the back muscles. So getting to feel this properly means you have to get very deep sideways and also forwards. So the Quadratus Lumborum, like we saw earlier in this here, it extends the spine, not just sideways, but when we're even doing back extensions, Jefferson curls, just hitting a good set of full range back extensions are starting to then work on the muscles that imbalance you side to side. Of course, you can't isolate left back, right back going forwards. It's just impossible. You're going to use both sides. But even if they're imbalanced, if you work on them on a back extension, both sides improve and your resistance to going sideways will go away. So the long answer short, in order for you to feel good doing QL extensions, you got to feel good going forwards. And that's what this is going to show. This is going to go out soon. If you're on the email list, you'll see it. But basically the first step is forward flexion. You do holds, then you get to reps. Once you can do 30 reps or getting close, then you start going sideways, just gently, not even to get the muscles. Because what do you have to hit before you hit the deepest part of your human body? Everything outside the onion. So look, these muscles on the side are the obliques, are the transverse abdominis. You have to hit your abs. And so we've kind of talked about that before. People have asked, I only feel my abs or my abs are sore, my obliques. Every time you side bend, you will always be training your obliques. There's no way to not. But as you get deeper ranges, even deeper, now you're forcing the QL to really get engaged and help out. Where if you only go a little bit, like have you ever seen people hit? Let me stop sharing so we can see me a little bigger. If you've ever seen people hit stuff in the gym like this, and they go like this with a plate, kind of fast right here, they're only going deep enough to hit the obliques. They're gonna hit it and it'll be sore. But this is how deep the QLs are inside my body. Obliques are here, transverse abdominis a little bit, QLs are here. So if I only go here, I'm only gonna get obliques mainly. I have to end up getting so deep that the torque has to go so inner in my body. So if I'm here, it's obliques, and I get to a certain point where the obliques can't help and something else has to, and that's the QLs. Now, just standing, if you don't have a protected spine, going as hard as you can to get to the QLs is asking for a disc injury or a re-injury and aggravation. Now, the reason why this is the last picture I want to show, I know I'm showing so much, is because just look at where it attaches again. Do you see how this muscle breaks into many different attachment points at every part of the spine? That's a really important thing to understand, because if you ever strained, not even strained, if you ever herniated a disc, this is a picture you may see, which is a little misleading, or this, and doesn't do it justice. When you really look at the way it attaches, it's pulling piece by piece on every vertebrae of the spine. And what is in between pieces of vertebrae? The disc. And do discs normally herniate just posterior, or do they normally herniate laterally, a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right? It's usually laterally. So QL and side bending is the last test of, can your disc and the vertebrae walls and the ligaments and the nerves, can it handle being yanked on exactly where you herniated? So there's no rush to get to that. Whereas going forward flexion is pulling on it equally, left side and right side. The spine is getting pulled on, yes, flexing, but not in the direction of the herniation exactly. So long answer short, if you want to make your QL and side bending better, make the back extension as good as you can, and then open up right behind it, which is the outer hip. Because last thing I do want to show on this, it's on different sides, but the outer hip muscles go from basically the femur, the leg bone, up to the top of the pelvis, which is your hip. You see the QL muscles, how it goes from the spine to the top of the hip. So look, the QL attaches to this called iliac crest, the crest of your ilium, your pelvis. Just think hip. So this attaches to the point of your pelvis, and then these outer hip muscles also attach to the same point of the pelvis. So it's like you got your QL pulling this way, you got your outer hips pulling this way, and they're attached at the same point. It's just like how the calf attaches behind the knee and the hamstring attaches behind the knee. If you try to get really flexible hamstrings, but you have really tight calves, it's not going to work. I just don't know anyone that can do a split that has tight calves all the time. You always end up stretching the muscle that's pulling on the bone below. So if you're trying to get deeper, you also need to make sure your outer hip strength and range, pigeon, outer hip drop set, 90-90, all that stuff is getting way better. Otherwise, you're going to feel like, oh, I'm way tighter on this QL, but maybe you're not. Maybe you're just tighter on the outer hip, and that's what keeps your pelvis from even pulling. It's so anchored down. So lateral flexion is is a lot. It's the last step because it's testing your spine the most. It's testing the muscles the most. It exposes tightness on so much, your hip flexors, psoas, the deep outer hips. So there's no stress if you're not feeling it. In the meantime, practice it for the sake of opening up more superficial things, your fascia. I don't know if you guys all know what fascia is, but it's covering your entire body. It's this connective tissue that almost is like, I would say, the memory of trauma in your body. You ever cut through on chicken breast, you could see it. It's the sheath that you cut on chicken breast. You see that? We're so familiar with it on food. We have that on every single tissue. You see those little pieces where it's extra white on top of each other? Those are called knots, adhesions. That's what massage therapists will work on and say, "Ooh, I feel something." It's not in the muscle, it's in that. So even going sideways, you have fascia on around the hip. It wraps around this way, right? So when you go sideways, you first got to open up the fascia, which is outside all the muscles. There's so much. I'm throwing like information over. But the reason I'm just saying is don't rush. If you keep working on all this stuff, you will get better at all of it. Don't work through pain, obviously. Because you feel the tightness one side, your intuition may tell you that's what I need to do. That's the direction you need to go in, but step one is still forwards. Step one is still building the big muscles into the deeper of outside of the onion to the deepest. So let's take a pause on my rant. Let's answer some questions. Rurid, please tell me I said, please tell me I said it right.
You're getting closer, Rory.
Rurid.
That's okay. Yeah, just on the side bends, you said that when I look back at the video, I noticed as well that when I was side bending,
Yeah.
I was cocking my hip out on the like the other side. So if you're saying that you want to go down far enough to activate the QL and not just the obliques, how do you stop your hip sort of cocking out on the opposing side to
Right.
which you're bending down?
It's a great question. Exactly. This is something that led to us getting more specific with our form on the way we taught it. Because we used to say that you could go front leg, whichever you want. You could go this way, or you could go this way. We stopped saying that because we realized something about the strictness based on your legs. So when you're training your QL, you have to go deep to hit it. That's what we said, right? Now, what does deep mean? It's not just about how low your hand gets. Because, like, imagine how deep can you squat? Well, it's squatting with good form, or is it squatting butt wink and rounding? Because two very different pull and mobility that will happen from that. Same thing sideways. You could get your hand deep by being tight, like you're stuck in a tiny hallway. That's how you want to feel. And you have to reach down and up without moving your body. You're pulling one side up and one side down. QL isn't just going down. QL is reaching opposites, contorting your body to pull apart, right? Now, how deep I get my hand here, I feel more QL this way than I do if I reach like that. Because every inch this hip moves, I have to go an inch deeper to pretend to get the same range. But if this hip stays in the exact place, now when I pull, it's truly pulling on the muscle. But if I move the hip, you remember the QL attaches from spine to hip. So if the hip moves, the muscle didn't have an anchor to pull on. So the big thing I'm explaining, how do you do that? Your legs have to be in the right stance. The way that you prevent this glute from popping out is by squeezing it. Just like as hard when you're doing a single leg hip flexor raise, that's how hard you're squeezing this glute on the side bending if you're standing. So it has to be.
And I imagine,
What's that?
sorry, I was gonna say, and I imagine if you're popping your hip out further, you're still getting just as much pressure on the disc, but then you're having to go further to get the stretch. So it's even
Yep.
more
Yep.
threatening for the other side.
That's why we're so big on the strictness over the visible progress. Because there's visible progress on a couch stretch where you yank back. If I'm coaching you on form and you can get to here, I'd be like, oh, congrats, you graduated. But maybe there's all passiveness and you're just cranking, yanking, and you're ready to tear. Versus you're down here, but you're contracting. The internal muscle tension is higher here, active, than it is up here, passive. So I look like I'm doing less, but I'm choosing the hard way by contracting, strictness. And that gives me better results than making the visible progress more. So the same thing here, I don't really care how low you get it, because it doesn't matter. This hip has to not move, which means it has to be in the back. Because if you did this hip in front, remember what prevents your hip from popping out is squeezing the glute. It's very hard to squeeze your glute when it's in front. You almost can't, because it's only the hip that flexes. To squeeze your glute, you have to extend it, which means it has to be at your side or behind you. So that's why we keep it behind, because I can squeeze this cheek when it's behind me. If that cheek is in front, I can't really squeeze it that well. So the side we're going down is in front, the hand sliding down is in front. This has to be back, because I'm squeezing that ass cheek hard. Nothing's gonna move. And you can even try without moving your hand. Pretend you're in a little hallway or find one, and you literally have walls. You can't move your hips. And just reach up and down like that, and turn the head a little bit, and you all of a sudden feel way deeper than if you were carrying weight and tipping, contorting your skeleton, but nothing is tense. So the stance matters, squeezing this glute, keep the hand and arm on you, strict here. And reach up, which is also elbow up. As much as you go down, you have to go up and keep it all very tight. My motion without weight would just be this much range. And that's okay, right here. And I'm trying not to let anything move, and I feel it way more than if I were letting go how I used to,
Sorry, Brandon.
just cranking.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep.
The thing is that I don't even feel like my obliques are working, you know?
What do you
So I
mean?
don't know if it's working. My obliques, the muscles.
When you say it's not working, you're just saying you don't get fatigue?
Yeah, I don't get any fatigue.
Well, if you grab weight and you do enough of them, you would. So we're not chasing fatigue though. You know, there's no chance, 90% no chance that your QLs, I'm sorry, your obliques aren't helping you do the movement. You may just be, are you doing it pretty gentle and just reaching?
Yeah,
It may just be that it's so easy on the muscle that you don't really feel the muscle, but you still feel tightness. It could be that fascia, it could be something else, which is fine, you know. You're
Alright.
only going to feel a muscle working if it's really required to work hard, you know. So right now, maybe it's just you're not using weight, right?
yeah, I'm using weight. I'm using like between 15 and 20 pounds.
Have you sent in form video on this recently?
No, since a long time because I broke my cell phone. But I'm gonna send you a video, probably tomorrow.
Okay, send me a video. We'll make sure it looks okay and you're doing it well. And you know, another thing too, Juan, is like feeling a tissue working again isn't always something that's just form or good advice or focus. It's like it just takes time and intention. You got to think about it. You got to think on what you want to feel and keep doing it very slow and controlled. And it's not
Yeah,
always perfect.
it's a strange because I feel that it's only working one side,
Mhm.
you know? So my left side is working and my right side is like I don't feel like anything.
Yeah, because imagine,
The only
right?
feel that I hurt myself, you know?
Yeah. Because now imagine you were imbalanced a little bit and you were like internally shifting just a bit. When you go against the shift, you're going to feel it a ton. But then when you go with the shift, you're going to not feel it much at all because you have to go extra deep because your posture isn't balanced. If you're perfectly balanced, a stretch this way will feel the same as a stretch this way. But if you're even an inch off, now one side will feel extra hard because your positioning is not 50-50 middle. One side will feel extra hard, the other side you'll feel nothing. So that would make sense if you are having any imbalance, you feel more on the one side than other. It's just part of it. And now the answer again is trying to fix it with side bending. The answer is get better forwards and backs, back extension. The more you pump that up, you're getting deeper and deeper to the spine. Everything that back extension trains, the back extension trains just about everything that would affect you in the back with your side to side. Maybe not the obliques as much, but the QL gets trained forwards. You don't even have to go sideways. All the in-between tissue. So yeah, man, let's keep working on it and send me a video. And I'd love to see it. Let's take these more questions. I want to go over plateau.
Thank you.
No problem, man. I'm sorry I didn't give it like a perfect answer and I just rambled, but it's such a good topic for people to understand.
Yeah, I know, but thank you.
No problem, man, of course. Okay, Sunja.
I left my question in the chat, but
Oh, okay. You want me to read it? I can read it. I think I saw it. Yeah, I noticed I have tightness in the chest muscle. I feel it especially at the top of trap 3, right? Will strengthening the mid backs release some of that tension, or how should we go about? Yeah, exactly. It's both. The stupid, simple, obvious, like slogan is if it's weak, strengthen it. If it's tight, open it up. We're trying to do both. The pullover is trying to start us in the direction of opening the chest, but it's not the only way. You can also go sideways, and that's something I've shown but not programmed yet. The Smith curl. Have you ever seen a video of mine where I showed that sort of fly curl for the chest?
I think so. It's like you're leaning on the top of the bench, kind of leaning backwards. You kind of
Yeah. So you would put it on the slightest incline. The incline's only so you don't hit your hands on the ground.
Yeah.
But you go flat. You grab 5 pounds, super, super light, and you'll keep your elbows high and go out sideways. It's like the pancake stretch for your groin. You know, it's like separating the legs. We have to separate the arms this way. Pull over may not be enough for you to really open your chest as much as you need. You might need to go here, and even if you just hold 1 minute, it's going to start to work on that. To answer your question of the trap 3, absolutely strengthening that will make it easier for the chest not to be tight.
Yeah, I also noticed like in the pec minor, like you know, it's really tight and tender. So
yeah, that's exactly it. Now,
that, you know,
that could irritate it. Are you tight because you're tight? Or are you tight because you're weak? Is it? There's a lot of things we'll see. When in doubt, let's do both. So yeah, we can work more on that directly. There's more stuff you can do to get this more confident in here. Like one thing, I'll get on dip bars and I'll hold. And when you just hold yourself, like even in L set, go in so many directions stuff. But when you just hold yourself here, this is shoulder and chest lifting, and you can hold yourself anywhere with your feet. But you pushing away is the short range of your chest. So the same way we do the outer hip drop set, this tight range, short, crampy, because then it makes it easier to do the opposite and pull on it. The chest, if we only yank on it, there's a chance it gets irritated and stays tight. You could do flies right here with a little machine. I've done that, like 50, light, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Or you could do holding yourself, just your legs down. They don't have to be on a chair, but literally pushing away, squeezing. Accumulating time in the tightest position, controlled, might help if you get blocked doing that. So I'm giving you extra, but it's just in case you don't feel good stretching this chest that deep. The next step is going to be, okay, let's get strength and tolerance in the pec minor.
Yeah, if there's like, I guess, pain when you get to the bottom of a dip, is that weak chest or tight chest?
Pain where?
Like in the middle, I guess.
In the middle, like by the sternum area.
Kind of like the middle of the chest, like right here in this area.
Most likely it's the joints of your this thing called costochondritis. Basically, is like you can get inflamed and irritated sternum. So
Got it. 'Cause I notice sometimes when I get to the bottom of the range of the dip, it's sort of like it hurts a little bit. It's not like
right.
super painful. It's just like there's this kind of like uncomfortable
Yeah.
feeling.
Here's something I went to the ER for 5 times when I was a teenager. So we know. So this is a sports medicine injury. You can have sternum pain because these are joints. Basically where the rib cage attaches to your sternum, the middle, your ribs will all each individually attach into here. This is a perfect example. It's like knee pain. There's a joint and you can get inflamed and it just becomes painful. And then it felt like a heart attack over and over, like really deep, really bad. It's just weak, inflamed. And what I used to solve that was exactly what I showed you, the short range squeeze. Like getting the muscle tight right there, pumping it with blood, getting the middle of the chest working, small ranges. If you're feeling tight when you stretch, pulling it apart, I used to always get sore after push-ups and dips every single time. Bench press right here. And that's more likely what you would probably be feeling if it's close to the middle of your chest.
Yeah, I think that this is probably what it is.
Yeah, it sounds like a scary name. Costio just means the ribs, and dritis is inflammation. I don't know what con is. Costochondritis, the cartilage. I don't know, but yeah,
So you're saying like short range flies would be the solution to sort of fix this?
that would help a lot because it's the same reason sled helps with the knees. Short range squeeze doesn't stretch and yank on it in a way that's stressful, but it gets a lot of blood flow and you get a good contraction. So muscles pull on it gently, but not hard. And you get a lot of blood flow, which is just a natural speed up of the healing. And then from there, the range can go deeper. So I would say, like, people have seen me in the gym and they know who I am. And they caught me on a fly machine. And I'm like, whoa, it doesn't look like it doesn't look like what it looks like. They're like, aren't you the guy that, no, I'm not heading to chest day. Nothing wrong with it, but not me, because I'm there doing this. I have it, just do short, lightweight, and like crazy muscle, all right in the inside. And it's like the rubber band analogy. That the more resistant and resilient you get that rubber band, now when you yank it and pull it apart, there's not all that frayed tissue and it's not ready to rip. So yeah, that I would also add one more thing for your trap 3. Everyone should do this. Literally everyone. Your first set of trap 3, you can add it to your 2 sets. Should be on the wall. Here. And lift. I'm gonna put out a form video on this too. But just an inch. And watch how my body's not moving. There's no momentum. I'm not trying to go fast. Right? Just this range, and I'm reaching out. I get a crazy squeeze and pump. If you struggle with the lockout here, and your form is like this, and it's ugly, you're cheating, you're going for weight. Trap 3, all this is momentum, 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 and then here's where the muscle really works. So to feel it better, do 20 reps right here. And just get the fingertips on the wall and gently lift them an inch, as small as you can, with no momentum. You're gonna feel this start to squeeze up. Then when you go to the bench and do it normal, you have a much better connection with that. And yeah, that's such a good one that I train sometimes more than the normal one, even without weight. It's not about the weight used for trap 3, especially in the beginning. So
Thank you.
no problem, man.
Maybe we can incorporate that into our
Heck yeah. Let's do it. I'm putting the flow. Just hopped on to say thank you. Been playing soccer, basketball, running with the kids and working how I used to, feeling as good as I have since I was a kid. Colin, I don't want to cry on the Zoom, dude. That's incredible, man. It's been a step by step. I'm hitting you with a lot of emojis right now. It's been a step by step. I'm glad I've been here and been able to see it, man. Just to start. Please keep it going. It's incredible. I did it and it feels even more than when I do it with weight. You did it more strict one and you feel it more, I'm assuming. Tried it with the legs and the cues. That'd be great. That's a great sign. If you can feel something without weight more than when you use weight. For example, I used to try to build my quads using the leg press. Yeah, trap throughs. How much weight on the leg press does it take to burn out your quads? It might take a couple hundred, few hundred. How much weight did it take for me to feel my quads if I went to the toughest position and I only spent time there and I owned it where it has to be quads? Takes zero weight. Body weight after 15, blasted right there. You see them popping, pumping. There's no hiding it because of leverage. Position, same thing here. Juan just did it. The raise here, you can literally see my spine try to get extended. It's such a hard position. Why would we even need weight? You know? And so, last thing I want to add to this rant about body weight. I'm slowing a lot of you guys down when you join the program. You guys are used to lifting weight, and I understand that. And I'm having you do stuff that's body weight. And when we think of body weight, we think it means 0 pounds. The guy that's sitting in his car. Oops. I guess people hearing your mic, David, I'm gonna mute you. No worries. You're all good. Ah, it's the camera that does it. Gotcha. Thanks for the catch. No worries. So when you're training body weight, this is something you see in the gym a lot. And I mean, no disrespect by it, obviously. I feel like I don't have to preface that. But you can see trainers sometimes training somebody that is super unable to lift their own body weight. Like they're overweight and they're doing squats. They might be 250 and they don't lift. And they're doing squats. But because the stigma of body weight is so bad, they'll have them training with like 10-pound dumbbells right here. And it's like, you're already wearing a 100-pound weight vest. You don't need the 10 pounds. You're doing 185 on your back because you really should be. Whatever, right? Now, the point with that isn't to fat shame or whatever, or call out trainers. It's just that we think body weight means 0 weight, and it doesn't. So when you're doing trap 3 raise and you're lifting on the bench, whatever, you may think, oh, I have to use 5s or 2.5s because that's where weight starts. It's not true because you're lifting the weight of your arm, which is not 0 pounds. So body weight is not 0 pounds. Body weight is, I would say, I might have a 10-pound arm. I don't know. But 10 pounds already. So when you go from body weight to 5 pounds, you're going from 10 pounds to 15. Which is a 50% increase in weight. It's like going from a 200-pound squat to a 300-pound squat. You would never jump that. So going from body weight, thinking, oh, I gotta get to 5. No, you don't. You don't have to use weight. There's a lot of days I go into the gym, chest on the bench, body weight trap 3 raise, and I have built great low traps that I can feel squeezed and I get sore. Where some of you guys may train trap 3 with 10 pounds and you don't get sore the next day. It's the same thing as like, do you need to squat this way or can you get the leverage to put the load and tension on the muscle?
Brendan, it's interesting because
Yep.
I've completely regressed both trap 3s and QLs for the 3rd time to just body weight. And it's like you can generate more range after you've done the variation, so if you get strong enough to do QL extensions, there's still tremendous value in a body weight QL side bend because you're capable of more with your body weight. after scaling and then going back. It's wild to go through.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, because the positions change. So the peak force potential, that sounds nerdy, but the highest amount of force you could produce changes because think of it like a rubber band. If the stretch on the muscle helps determine the force on the muscle, if this isn't even a rubber band, this is headphones. But if you had a rubber band and it's like pulled like this, how much force would you say that is? 10 pounds, 20? Now let's say I super stretch it. How much is that going to snap back? 100? Super stretch it. 200 pounds? You didn't even have to change the weight on it. We're talking about the stretch that you can access. So the longer range you access to pull a muscle, pull a muscle, pull a muscle, it's like the rubber band going deeper and it wants to snap. That's tension. The only thing that really signals change in the body, well, not the only, but one aspect is tension, not weight. The reason we use weight in lifting is because it's an easy way to help us build tension. You could also just become a very skilled lifter and know how to create tension with positions, getting deeper ranges, getting longer muscle lengths, getting deep in a squat, and you need less weight to get sore than doing half squats with double the weight. It's just becoming a skilled lifter. And that's why so many of us get injured is because we get addicted to the progression of external load, of how much you put on, but it's like, how did it feel? That's the best thing to ask your body. Did you get a little sore the next day productively, then healed? Are you feeling like the quality of your contraction feels good? Like it should feel good to stimulate a muscle. It's not bullying. It should really feel nice. You leave, got a pump. When I do this abductor machine and I pump my outer hips and I walk away from the gym, I'm like, that feels so nice to just be pumped there. But if I had the mindset of more weight, then I would have been and then I'm like kind of feeling it. I'll be sore because I cranked on it, but I didn't own it. So let me read through some of these. What are your
That was a
thoughts?
great description, by the way.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm saying a lot of things. Good question, Sinja. What are your thoughts on time under tension, concentric, eccentric? Very legitimate. That's kind of what we're here for, what we're talking about. Time under tension is a real factor because it's what volume actually is. So people think volume is Cody, we got a lot of things you could be catching on this one. I'm throwing out a lot of stuff. Cody takes notes on these so we can make little YouTube videos if anything's really good. But people think
I haven't. This has been all over the place. What a great call.
yeah, sorry. I didn't even touch the topic I wanted. Yeah, so time under tension is a good thing to realize. Maybe you guys aren't super lifters and don't care. Maybe you do. As always, I don't mind if you guys draw, just don't mess up what I'm doing, you know? No problem. It's a fun whiteboard. So volume in lifting is a term that usually is weight times sets times reps. In exercise science, they call it load, right? But we're not exercise science nerds. We're dropouts, so we just call it weight. So the volume is this is how you try to get progressive overload. You get stronger as people would think. You have to increase one of them. If you did, if you did last week 100 pounds for 3 sets of 10, you just multiply all of them. So 100 times 3 is 300 times 10 is 3,000. You lifted 3,000 pounds today. So next week, if you want to get stronger, in theory, this isn't talking about position, tension. This is why we lose track of it because they don't even think about that. We're just talking about weight on our back. If you want to build muscle and get stronger, well, then you either have to do 110 pounds for 3 times 10, or you do 100 pounds times 4 sets times 10, or let's say you do 3 sets times 12, and then now your tonnage for the day did Oh, 36, 3,600, right? So now you just added 600 pounds. Now, what this misses, the reason I'm talking about volume is what volume actually is. This is not in textbooks. This is why I left academia, I left school. There's a lot of things that aren't in textbooks. At least maybe they weren't. Maybe they are now. Weight times sets times reps times actually just weight times time under tension is one way to look at it. This isn't exactly perfectly true because you could, the reps give you momentum and that actually changes the force a little bit. So it's not easy to predict. But basically, the time under tension is a real factor, Sunja, because how you do, let's say you were going to do 3 reps. If you did 100 pounds for 3 reps, you could be like, that's 300 pounds you lifted. Now, and then if you did 100 pounds times 10 reps, you could say that's 1,000 pounds. Now, what if you did the 3 reps though, at the same amount of time it took for 10 reps? What if you did 10-second reps and really it was 100 pounds times 30 seconds? 3 reps, 10 seconds. It was really 30 seconds, right? Versus the 10 reps. Actually, I'll just do it like this. I'm not a lecturer, I'm not a teacher, I've never taught classes. I don't really know the best way to teach it. But look, let's say you did the 10 reps at 3 seconds each. So you did more reps when you went 3 seconds up and down. But when you did 3 reps, you went 5 seconds, slow, owning it. The muscles under tension, muscles under tension, muscles under tension, muscles under tension, muscles under tension. Your time on the lift was the exact same when you did 3 reps as when you did 10 reps. So did you really do over 3 times the amount of work on the one you did 10 reps like this versus 3 reps like this? No. Because it's this, your body's taking away. I spent 30 seconds fighting for my life, which is a pretty consistent signal. So this is why chasing only weight and reps is a terrible way to try to lift, because then you get rid of one, the quality of contraction, your position, your form, but also time under tension completely throws out the idea of just perfect. And they do talk about tempo, but they don't, I don't think they normally put in the math of tempo. They'll just say 3 seconds down, pause, 1 second up. But they won't actually tell you, like, you could just make your reps slower and end up lifting more. Some people do talk about it. I'm not saying this is revolutionary, but when I came up lifting and I was studying exercise science and these certifications, becoming a personal trainer, they're not really so big on this point. Now, think about the back extension. Before we could ever do 1 rep, I'm having you guys do 2 minutes of 1 rep, basically. Because it's not just how fast you flip through these things, but how much time you spend owning it with the muscle. So I'm gonna end that rant there. I got tangent all over the place, but my thoughts, time under tension is very real. Now, concentric, eccentric, it kind of, usually you have a better control on the eccentric because you're slowing into it. It's helping you, the gravity or weight. You're just fighting it and you can own it. On the way up, you can also think about your form and keep it good. But I just did, type of sessions I really like is to do high sets, low reps. This is something I would recommend once we're back to lifting, part of the 2.0 and things later, like 10 sets of 3 reps, take RDL. But the 3 reps are like 5 seconds on the way down, I pause and I come up. So it ends up being like most people's 10 reps. Because you get really good focus, really good quality of the rep. You're going to take it serious. The contraction's good. You know, at every point, is my back safe? Am I good? Am I good? Am I good? I feel okay. Good. Okay, let's get it back up. Versus deadlift, deadlift, deadlift. Ding. Ah, what happened? So yeah, man. In terms of like concentric, eccentric, it's a personal thing. I usually will go slower on the eccentric, like 5 seconds, maybe pause for a second at the hardest place in the squat, deadlift, and then I just go up. A lot of different ways to do it.
I also think that time under tension helps you get a seamless balance between antagonist muscle groups. So it's like
Yeah.
as you're going eccentric with the bicep, you start contracting the tricep instead of this, confused momentum movement. I don't know.
Yeah, what he means is when I'm lifting, if I do a preacher curl and I'm going down, I'm contracting my bicep on the way down. And more and more and more. Now, what happens when I start to lock out? You see my tricep start to go. I've been working on. As I want to get that last bit of range, if I really want full range, I'll squeeze my tricep to actually get it there. So I'm squeezing this, but it's still loading the muscle on the bicep. It's still working, or else my arm would snap backwards. But by squeezing that slow, you get a better fire relax, which will help you in stretching. It's the same thing as like on the split squat. What do I tell you guys to do? Squeeze the back glute. You're still fatiguing the front, but you're getting good going slow, squeezing the back glute to let this open up more, just like a bicep. So these are the sort of tricks and tips that change a split squat from like, oh, I get it, it's mobility, to, oh, wow, that hits the hips deep, that hits the hips hard. I'm feeling sore, I'm feeling balanced. You start to actually get more from these things. No problem, Rudy. See, he's probably already gone. These are all things that like maybe part of being in LBA, joining the program, is learning a new way to lift. Because when you take gym culture thought and try to apply it to trap 3 in split squat, you're going to try to do 5 pounds heavier every month. You're going to be worried about just form, but not so much tempo or feel. You're going to bring in the wrong rules and goals that basically you could stay in the same place. And that's why it took me 3 years to fix my back, even after having the right exercises, because I wasn't checking for the right thing. So the safe way, if you want to know how to avoid that, just go slower with your time horizon, with your progression through the levels of back extension, your progression period, getting your split squat to flat, go slower. Then in your reps, your actual training reps, go slower, feel it, because speed hides things. Momentum hides things. And when you go fast reps, you can hide things. When you're going 5 pounds heavier every week, well, you start to hide things and you lost the quality of how strict. So this isn't for the faint of heart. It humbles you. You have to embrace being a beginner, and you start to pick different goals that have to start to excite you in a new way. The good news is, once you're out of this rehab stage and mind frame, let me get out of this. Once you get out of this rehab mindset and sort of beginning stages where you have to be humble and slow, these are just better principles to lift with, like, period. When you get back to heavy lifting or whatever, you're gonna get more now, and you're gonna be way wiser than you used to be, where you used to just think, no pain, no gain, more weight, push hard, did I sweat, did I this, that? It's no problem to push yourself, you don't always have to be a nerd about it, like me, but you're gonna have better tools. And it's ironic, injuries is what forced you to slow down. It's like proverbial, it's always in everything. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. You want to learn a piano song, go slow, then you can go fast. But if you always try to just push, you end up breaking a finger and you can't play. That's the bad analogy to end that off. Juan, you still got your hand up. Is that a new question or the old one?
Messing up the song. That's the analogy we should have gone for.
Amen. Sorry for dropping the ball on that. Feeling my quads really necessary a nerve problem, or could it just be muscular? I need more one. Numbness, tingling, pain, feeling them? What do you mean? And I don't mean that in an impatient way. You're better at English almost than me. It's your second language, so I'm not.
I feel them really tight.
Tightness
Yeah, really tight.
could be both. I don't know. But
Okay.
yeah, no say. Because it's I don't know exactly how it feels and like when it comes on and when it doesn't for you. Now it could be both. So the good news is working on it is closer to the same than not. Nerve or muscle, you don't want to yank on it and pull on it and try to stretch it out because that would hurt the muscle and nerve. You want to get evidence. What I mean when I say the word evidence is like I squeezed it, contracted, I have a muscle, I'm alive, relax and do it, no pain. The safest way to get evidence is here, short range. Squeeze. Not out here, like pull the bicep, because now it's stretching, it's using the joint, the nerves are understretched, the fascia's yanking, there's so much that can be hurt. So for your quads, for example, now squats, bending the knee, all of that's good. If you have nerve symptoms and or tightness, just a lot of symptoms on the quad itself. Of course, I was saying you could be doing squats and you feel your quads, but that's pulling the nerves, stretching the muscle. I would probably start literally therapy style, something behind the knee, terminal knee extension. Can you lock out your quad? It's like a step up, but just sitting. And how good of a quality could you be squeezing your quad? After that, obviously backwards and step up is like a loaded version of that lockout now. I would stick more with short range. How good could you burn it out? How tight of a squeeze can you get it where it feels like it's going to cramp? And that's evidence, one, to the nerves. You're firing things, but you're not yanking on them and causing pain. The muscle is getting contraction, which is good. It's like muscle memory. It remembers firing and it will get that back. And then also you're circulating, you're getting blood flow through the little pump. That's, of course, a generalized answer that is like not always the fix. If your case, if whatever's going on is more specific. If you had something pinched right in the hip, like the lateral femoral nerve or something got a little pinched up here, you have numbness or tightness or tingling just because the nerve branch little here causes all of it to be zing for some time. You know, it's tough with nerves because you don't know what the root is sometimes. But short range, squeeze, quad, try to get a quad burn without stretching it. Look for creative ways to do that without overdoing it. Yeah, that's muscle and nerve. It's funny because like without the nerve, the muscle wouldn't fire. But without the muscle, the nerve would have no role. You know, so we can't, there's almost no point even trying to figure out which it is, because if it's either, it's both. So you just work on it, both, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah, man. All right, guys, this was a great chat. We didn't go over plateaus, which is okay. I'm actually gonna pause it here. I don't want to overload super. If there's any more questions, let me know. I'm trying to keep these calls appropriate time, like 7:05. So if I go another hour, if I like open up the topic that I was going to, and I think we should save that for a different one, the next one. So any questions?
One question.
Yeah.
I didn't see the link for the class in August.
No?
Did you post it yet?
For the class. Are you talking about the
workshop?
In person? Yep. Let me send it here first. I have it, didn't post it, but
Okay.
let me get it to you right now.
I saw a post earlier this morning and I was waiting, but I didn't see anything.
Well, that means a lot of other people are like, yo, what the heck? What's going on? I just sent it into, it's the 17th, 2 Saturdays from now, I believe. Workshop. I just sent it in the pro group chat. You're in there, right?
I hope so.
Me too. You know what the Telegram group chat is?
Oh yeah, that I have. Yeah, that I have.
I just sent it in there.
Okay. What is it? Is it pay what you want, or I don't? It doesn't
Yep.
matter to me.
Say what you want. It's probably gonna be minimum $10 just because there's overhead.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave something very generous. I promise.
I figured. So there's a pro ticket where you get a t-shirt and then you're gonna get the option of a 30-minute Zoom consult later, which obviously kind of may not need. But there's also you can come in for an hour session the next weekend. So I'm gonna train there more one-on-one style or semi-private with a couple people.
Oh, absolutely. I'm definitely gonna get one of those. Absolutely, without a doubt.
So that's the pro ticket. People beg to like get a session in, and I'm like, I would train some people, but I have to know them and know they care and they're working on it versus like someone randomly off of DMs or something. Cause like I got you
Absolutely.
guys I know and focused on more than yeah. So I just sent it also in the chat if you guys want to look.
Okay.
If someone comes to the event, then I'm invested, like they're invested to showing up for what we're doing, then I'll try to do a little training with them too.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I just had one question also on the trap 3 races.
Yeah.
You kept going. I didn't want to stop you.
No, you can.
Is it okay to do unilateral work, so one hand at a time instead of two?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've tried. You got to really like. It's a little tough one to only get one just because the balance. You got to like hug a bench.
Correct. Correct. You have to
I've
hold the
done
back.
it, and I think without weight, it's okay. And I've also thought about potential of like. I've tried with cables, things that pull away, and like if you
Right.
get creative and find something, let us know. But you definitely can. You
So
definitely.
what I've been doing is just because I can't hold two weights at a time because it's like too much pressure on my lower back. So and like this, I could grab onto the bench and it could like ease some of the pressure and do
Yeah.
one at a time.
It's true. You're gonna have to work a little bit harder to brace and get tight.
Correct.
But that's why it's safer feeling for you. Yeah, that's totally fine. Just keep same intention, which is the ones remember tricep locked out and reach out. That difference here versus here, it's like you'll turn 10 pounds into 100. It's crazy what reaching far out. You don't have to keep your shoulders pinned, you can let them protract. That's crazy difference. So
I actually do them on the back extension machine. I just pull the sled up all the way high and I just do it there because every bench in my gym is just taken every night, so it's just so much easier to do it on the back machine.
Smart. Yeah, man, exactly. Put it up all the way, and that's
But
perfect.
once I see you in person, I could show you and you could tell me what I'm doing right or wrong. It's just that's
Yep.
the best about videos, but in person is really.
Oh yeah, man, you got a tough spot. Anytime we do these events in LA or New York,
Well, I'm in Brooklyn, so that's it.
no, but when there's a pro member at the event, you become my punching bag. I'm like for 6 hours. Oh, this guy should have the perfect form. All right, let's look at everything David's doing wrong. Let's talk about why he's a failure. All right, let's like because you're the only person I'm safe with that I know is cool.
Yeah,
That-
I don't care. I'm not a shy person at all. You could you guys whatever, I don't care.
It'll be great. It'll be great. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Man.
Thank you.
Of course. Anybody else? Johnny got a hand up?
Yeah, quick question. Just started a new job yesterday. Haven't had a real job really all year, partially because I didn't want to like commit to something. My back I wasn't confident in it,
Same.
but I had to get back into things. It's not physical, but I do like a lot of walking now and standing. And I've just been quite sore, like the upper half of my back and like my neck. I was thinking I would regress back to like more body weight with everything and probably take out like the reps on the back machine just to make the transition a little easier. Is that a good idea?
Well,
Or removing any movements probably isn't good.
keep in mind that like the back extension levels, you going back to holds may not really be a regression. You know, it's more like you went back to a lower level of tissue tolerance. But once you have the tissue tolerance to do reps, holds, like for me now, holds are just as hard as reps. They always were just as hard. It's just that one version I could tolerate and survive, and the other one I couldn't survive. Reps I couldn't survive, holds I could survive. So I did that. But it's not that holds suddenly are easier. But at the same time, if you recover better from one of them, just stimulate the back how you can. I wouldn't personally cut everything back. As a rule of thumb, it's easier to think all or nothing of like, all right, let's go back to the easy version and like cut everything back. But if you're doing external rotation and it feels fine, I would keep the same weight. You know, if you're feeling a specific thing here and you're going on that exercise and you think it's an overload right now, that's probably smart thinking of you to do that. Are you stuck wearing a backpack a lot? I've noticed me backpacking a lot whole past 2 months, and this does not feel good. I really don't like backpacks. I'm not gonna lie, like prolonged and walking in them.
But no, I'm not carrying nothing like that.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would honestly, I would go to lighter versions, higher intent, try to get a harder feeling from the easier. So trap 3, I would do trap 3 only on the wall and get really good at the squeeze and get pumped up, but have no weight loading on you, and try that. Try to make the easy versions killer hard if you're gonna make it easier.
All right.
Yep. Good question on the event. Karina, in Florida, where in Florida? Just curious. Like SoFlo or Tampa area or Sarasota type of where?
Tampa.
Tampa. I lived in Tampa for a year. Might have to.
You should.
What's that?
I just said you should.
Should. Yeah, it's definitely a spot we might. I like it there. Are you in Tampa, the like Tampa area, or outside of it?
I'm in the Clearwater area, but I mean,
You live in
it's pretty
Clearwater?
close, so I do.
I lived in Clearwater.
Mm.
Yeah.
Very close to the TD ballpark by Dunedin.
Yeah. That was when I was working with Knees Over Toes guy. I moved out. That's where I went, did the road trip, drove across the country and was like, hey, could I just clean your bathrooms? I went to Clearwater, Florida, knew nothing about it, and then was there for a year. So yeah, I know the town well. Tampa could definitely happen, that part of Florida. We have a big audience. I like Florida.
Yeah, I think it'd be a pretty good turnout.
I agree. Okay, it's on the map. It's on the map. Anything else, guys, before we go? I appreciate the engagement and questions. Hope you learned something.
Quick question.
Yeah.
So kind of similar to what I was talking about in last question, but do you recommend sort of, I guess, regressing and adding time under tension before moving on to a heavier weight then? Or do you think it's like better to just kind of trust what your body is feeling?
It depends on the nature of the exercise, because like time under tension for, say, a dip is different than the time under tension of a trap 3, because it's like trap 3 is hardest at the squeeze,
Yeah.
where dip is hardest at the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
So for trap 3, I would probably add reps, because you're going to get more time at the squeeze. You could try slow, but it's really how long you hold the squeeze, not so much getting there, right? Like that time under tension doesn't really matter, because the juice of the exercise is really at the lockout. So if you try to spend time there, that's smart. But dips, I would just change time under tension. The whole way is pretty steady. So it does depend on the nature of the exercise, but trap 3, I would add reps before time under tension.
Okay.
Split squat, I would add time under tension before reps.
How do you know which ones you should add time?
I would say, so it's the idea of strength curves. If something is hardest in the short range, I would probably add reps. If something's hardest in the long range, I would add time. An example is, do you know what a Nordic hamstring curl is?
Yes.
Yeah. So that one is hardest at the bottom. So it's easy when your knees bent, but you go down, you're straightening your leg. It's harder in the long range.
Yeah.
If you imagine a hamstring curl, it's the opposite. It's easy, leg straight, and then you curl the leg, and that's where it's toughest.
Mm-hmm.
So I would add reps on the hamstring curl, but Nordics, I would just add time. It's easier to add time where it's hardest. Think of it. Is it hard when I'm stretched, or is it hard when I'm squeezed?
Got
So step up is kind of both. A squat is hardest at the bottom, so you would add time. But like say back extension, you don't really get a stretch. I would probably try to own a decent time under tension, but mega slow reps versus just adding some more. I think I would add more reps because it's not the hardest at the bottom, the back extension. You know, it's more hard at lockout.
Mhm.
So the concept of the strength curve, is it hardest at the squeeze or the stretch? If it's hardest at the stretch, add time. If it's hardest at the squeeze, add reps. That's probably a very imperfect rule of thumb, but I think most exercises I'm thinking to check out. So if you have any ideas specific, you'll find something that breaks that. Like pullover is hardest at the stretch. I would add time, but trap 3, same position, but it's not. It's a squeeze on the back now. It's not necessarily the same. So, yeah,
Thank you. That's helpful. I feel like I'm gonna try to incorporate that.
yeah. I've never thought of exercise in some of the ways we're talking about. So these questions are very interesting. Yeah, it all does depend. There's usually some like pattern, but it's interesting. Yeah, let me know more questions. I'd love to help. Natasha, what's up?
Just a quick question. I put in the chat, after you talking about fascia, I put in the chat about the human garage. I don't know if you've heard of them or not. I'd like your nerdy opinion if you have heard about them.
You think I have nerdy opinions?
Yes, I love it.
Oh man, I don't. I'll give you my jock opinion if you. Well, I'm kidding. Let me see. Nerdy. Okay, human garage fascia.
Like if you don't like them, if you haven't heard of them, that's okay. But I'd like to know if you like them or not, if you agree with what I'm
Where'd
saying,
you
if it's
find it on? Is it Instagram?
they have a website, thehumangarage.com. But yeah, they have Instagram too.
Okay. I'm biased. Honestly, I'll tell you right now, my bias is I like kind people, and people that are super like all-knowing and kind of judgy and jerks. I tend to just not like them anyways because I don't want to learn from them, but they could be very knowledgeable. So I'm a little skewed by the quality of human teaching the lesson, but I can separate pretty well. Oh, I see. Okay. This is interesting for me to see because I like to learn more and more about fascia, and the teachers of fascia sometimes are like there's culture that gets mixed in. Like fascia kind of pulls in more of a spiritual crowd when it's like
Oh yeah.
it makes sense because there's also a component where like emotions arguably get stored within fascia. Like there's emotional residue, tightness, stress causes knots in the back. That's an example of how you feel infiltrating tissue. So I get the people who care about how you feel in your body are more spiritual, whatever. But it's like, let's see. I I don't know yet. I like the gist of what I'm seeing, facial, but I don't. You know what
Yeah.
fascia lacks is like there's no go-to. Here are the basics. Here how you work through it, because maybe it's not step by step. Maybe fascia just isn't like that.
They have like they have like a course at the moment, the free course where you're breaking up fascia day by day. It's more about like they um usually do it for people because they want to release trauma. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like
Yeah.
their target audience. I just don't know if it's good for us with healing with our back. I've been trying them and
Yeah.
I feel like breaking up fascia because I've been so stuck for a few years, would be good.
Yeah.
Whatever works, go for it.
Amen. Right. I would say even without me knowing enough to say go or no, fascia's real. adhesions and fascia are real. I would say these are pretty known things. Physical touch and massage and constriction, floss banding examples, all of those. I've healed stuff of fascia myself this year behind my knee and my foot through using floss bands. And I went through movement still, but I had constriction. So I've become way more open to in the ways it could show up. The only thing I'll just recommend being cautious of is like grinding in on the low back tissue, because I'm not worried about your fascia, I'm worried about everything else around there. But if it works, for sure, even if it's not perfect teachings yet, and it's a little, like I talk in circles, but you're gonna take some stuff you can apply. And if I think massaging everywhere around, like, go for it. Don't think it would hurt at all. If the worst is you're massaging and it gets fluids moving more. Yeah, I would say net very positive. But I wouldn't be in a rush to try to elbow down the fascia in your SI joint, you know?
Okay, thank you.
No problem, no problem. Thank you for asking. I want to learn more too, so I'll look into
Yeah,
it.
more. I'd love to hear about it more, of your opinion.
Yeah, as I learn more, I will share it, because it's actually what helped me with my healing. Things I couldn't heal this year. I thought I knew everything a couple of years ago, and then struck again. Fascia had more answers, where all the structural balance was checked out, muscle length checked out, the exercise that we trained, the short range, long range, all that tendons, and I was still injured. And it was like the weirdest way it would come on. I'd feel my foot and then I'd feel behind the knee. And I'm like, how are those connected?
Mhm.
Plantar
Yeah.
fascia runs through and then turns into the fascia behind the leg. It's just, yeah, it's interesting. So I'll share as I learn. I'm a student.
Thank you.
Well, no problem. Sorry, I didn't have more of the nerd spiel on that
Oh,
one.
you're so this has been a very informative group chat, so my brain's already maxed out a little bit.
Amen. Yeah. All right, guys. Anything else before we get going? This was a great chat. I appreciate it. All righty. Friday we'll have another talk. I hope then I'm gonna demo some stuff and go more on the ground, rolling around, do some mobility, do some new stuff, and help you guys again. And maybe if we have time, we'll talk about plateaus. If not, next Tuesday I'll do the breakdown. But this was really good. I love this group coming in and chatting. It's gonna help you guys. Even if it's one little tip you found here, it can change an exercise. So you're doing the right things. Let me know if I can help. The other way.
Just one thing, don't forget if you could post that trap 3 raise, with the wall.
Yes, sir.
I
Yeah.
want to try that. Looks good.
Yep. I got you. That'll be
Thank you.
coming this week. No problem. See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye. No problem.
See ya.
See you guys.